Hello collectors, it's Steven here with a review of one of the Pharaoh's signature monsters, the Dark Magician Girl. Following the Figma Yami Yugi released in 2016, Max Factory follows through with everyone's favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Waifu in action figure form. But was it worth the wait? Is this figure worth the purchase? Y'all know what I'm gonna say, so let's try to say it at the same time. Let's take a look to see whether or not this one's worth adding into your collection. But before we get to the review, you just might like trading card games, and if you do, be sure to check out my other channel, Steven's Cards and Games. That's right, I open up Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon cards every so often, and I think you just might like that. So if you want more goodness, be sure to head on over there and check it out. You can even see some of the stuff I've opened up right here on the screen right now, so be sure to click that card annotation right up there on the top of the screen, and head on over and be sure to subscribe. Alrighty then, now back to the review. So Dark Magician Girl here is a little bit of a mixed bag in the looks department. Surprise, surprise. That's something that I say often. Her sculpt is nice, and at a distance she looks really good. So if that's what you are concerned about, trust me, this figure looks fine. However, up close, she starts to lose points, and there's one serious screw-up which does not work in her favor, and regardless whether or not you look at the smaller details or the larger picture, this is something that you will probably be upset about. Her face is really cute as expected. That would be very difficult for them to not get right. But here is where we start to see little odd drips of paint on the chest area and uneven paint applications on the hat. This isn't isolated to one specific area throughout the figure. Thankfully, the pentagram on her chest is kept fine enough in the detail department we can actually make out the lines, and furthermore, they didn't make this figure kid-friendly like the TCG art for the United States. But returning to the paint concerns for a little bit, the gauntlets do look iffy, but fortunately the gold is pretty fine. One knock against it, however, is that the robe has teeny tiny bits of chunky paint to it, which, again, the smaller details, that is going to dock it a little bit. Some might say it's nitpicking, but this is consistent throughout the figure, which makes it more than just a smaller issue. The quality control issue with this figure that I mentioned before is that the robe is painted without a top coat. So if you allow the robe to touch anything on the figure, there will be paint transfer, and this is a known issue with the figure. Long story short, her skin, keep it away from her robe at all cost. Why this issue is apparent here and why it is even an issue to begin with, I don't know, but thankfully I've been following this advice and I do not have that paint transfer here. Anyway, this isn't exactly an accessory, but her hat can come off. So if you do want to display her that way, you can, but it does leave a hole in her head, which, there's no real way to get around that. Now, check the comments if you want. There's something else. Overall, she does look nice in the large sense of the figure, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, there is that very, very stupid quality control issue, and unfortunately, we do have rather unclean paint application. Alright, so for Articulation, Dark Magician Girl is about your standard Figma, but keep in mind she has her robe and all that fun stuff, which unfortunately does block the articulation a little bit. So we do have the head, which is on your standard Figma style joint. We have a ball joint that sits in the head. And then we have, well, let's go ahead and take that off. That just makes it easier to move around. We do have that swivel hinge in the neck. Unfortunately, there's no joint down here where the neck connects into the body. Her hair does prevent her from looking up too far, and unfortunately, her bangs, when you look down, though they are soft, you might pop her front hair piece off. These two parts, they're on swivels, so you can move them up and down a little bit, just like that, which is nice, and that helps the ball-jointed shoulders with hinges to move up and down just a little bit more, which is awesome. But keep in mind, this is not coated, so you don't want to keep the arms touching the robe. There's also a bicep swivel hidden up there near the shoulder, which is great. We have the typical hinge joint for the elbow with a swivel hidden in there, so this way you can move those around if you want to at another point. Now the gauntlets here, they're actually on pegs, so they swivel around, which is wonderful. The wrists are your standard Figma style wrists, so they do have a swivel hinge unique combination there, but unfortunately, when the way they plug into the gauntlet, you're not going to get too much movement out of there, so it is a little bit limited, but hey, you can still move it around. We do have a little bit of an ab crunch here. Moves back more than it does forward. Can twist and turn her from side to side, which is awesome. Do we have a waist joint down here? Yes, we do, folks. Yes, we do. And we have ball jointed hips, which also features swivels. That's very cool. We do have hinged knees, which also feature swivels just a little bit. And then, surprise, surprise, we do have swivels down here where the boots connect into the lower portion of the legs. And then we have limited swivel hinges for the ankles, so you can move her feet around. But these portions of the boots down here, these little gold parts, they do block the articulation a little bit, so that is a bit unfortunate. But overall, at the end of the day, you can get the Dark Magician Girl into some fun poses, and as you'll see throughout the review in some pictures, your creativity is the only thing that will really prevent her from getting into a nice pose. Dark Magician Girl comes with a bunch of accessories, and one really cool accessory that you could only get if you ordered from Good Smile Company directly and paid for the day one DLC, meaning if you paid full MSRP plus 2,000 yen, EMS shipping, no more, no less. So, as a quick rundown of all of the accessories that we get a slew of extra hands, extra faces, extra jumping leg parts, her staff or her wand, I prefer to call it a staff, magic formula, one stand for the magic formula, and the standard Figma accessories, support arm, the baggie, and the extra joint, with all the releases. Now, that extra accessory is the Dark Burning Attack, and that's only if you ordered from Good Smile Company directly during the one order window, which means you cannot get this new. Good luck getting it on the aftermarket. Alright, we got a hefty amount of accessories, so let's start off running, and let's talk about the hands. We get fists, we get splayed hands, we get hands with a V because this is either peace or it's offending the UK crowd. We get 2 hands to hold the staff, and then we get one random alternate hand that's kind of splayed, and I really don't know what this is for. Okay. So to swap out the hands, you just pull them off near the wrists and pop the new ones on. Keep in mind there's a little lip on the gauntlet. Don't pull that off. Now let's look at her staff, which has some nice detailing for the size, and the paint applications, they're just fine enough. But the one issue is that the majority of it is translucent plastic, which does not make it okay because it's paint, and that can rub off over time because you will be sliding it in and out of the hand. And given the paint transfer issue of this figure, we really don't know how to gauge how much of this paint may or may not rub off, or how much will transfer over onto the hand. So, to get her to hold the staff, you just pop the top of it off, slide it into her hand at the handle, then pop the top back on. Let's talk about her faces. She comes with 2 alternate face plates as well, one looking off to the side, and a happy kawaii desu na baka gaijin winking face where she's all smiley and happy. To swap the faces, you first have to pop the hat off, then the front hairpiece, then pull the face off, then go in reverse order, and everything will be hunky-dory. Now she comes with her magic formula or her spellbook accessory. The paint application on this one is really nicely done, though there's one little dangly piece there, and there's not much to say aside from fantastic job with this accessory. One issue though, no text in the book, not even a little decal that they could have put in there. Admittedly, this isn't an issue, it's just something that could have been really, really cool. Also of note, the book doesn't close, which the Q Posh, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, I still don't know whether or not I am, can. There's also an included stand with a circular base, And the arm for this stand plugs into the base with a ball joint, and it's a strong suggestion to plug the arm in near the ball joint to prevent breaking. The magic formula plugs in at the bottom of the binding. Now, you'll want to be careful there because you're going to want to make sure you're using balancing skills here, because if you don't, you're going to have this one flop all over the place when you have it displayed. Lastly, for the general retail release, she comes with 2 replacement leg parts to make it look like she is jumping in the air. Yay! You pop the normal legs off at the hips. Then you pop the boots off the normal legs. Then you pop them onto the new legs, and you reattach at the hip. That's the suggested method in the instructions, but I suggest taking the top parts of the boot off after you pop them off on the leg, lining them up that way. This whole process can definitely be a hassle. I even struggle with it here, so practice with this one makes perfect. They're very, very fiddly to line up, so don't be upset if the first few times you don't get it right. And here's a quick look at that example of paint transfer that I was talking about. Admittedly, this is down by the boot in an area where this will be covered up, so it's not that big of a deal, but at the end of the day, this is an example of what I'm talking about. Lastly, overall for accessories, there is that effect part, her dark burning attack, which you can only get if you ponied up for the full price plus shipping during the order window from Good Smile directly. While it really is a nice effect part, it's pink, it's glittery, it perfectly matches the Dark Magician Girl. It really isn't needed for sure. Yeah, paying a whole lot more for something that really isn't worth it, so don't feel upset if you don't get it. Again, I'm not saying that this is essential to the Dark Magician Girl release. I'm just saying you could get this for $53 if you were to order this at the time of release from an import site, or you could spend close to $80 from Good Smile directly. Do you think this effect part is worth about $30? No? Okay, neither do I. So we're on the same wavelength there. While it really is a nice effect part, like I said, it is not needed. Also, for that extra $30, they just included the effect part. You're going to have to use that stand that came for the magic formula with the dark burning attack. You cannot display her reading from the spell book to make it look like she is using that book to fire off the attack. You'd think that that's something that they would do. And your size comparison. And as you can see here, she is just about as big as your average Figma. So if you've already cleared a spot on your shelf for this one, chances are you guessed right. So, buy now, skip, or wait for that deal. Dark Magician Girl here looks nice, though quality control issues knock her down a few pegs. A lot, actually. Articulation is fine enough, and the accessories are justifiable. If you're a fan of Dark Magician Girl, you just might be pleasantly surprised with this release, or you might be a little upset with the quality of the figure. For me, I'm just pointing out what some may not be comfortable with for the price point, but the paint concerns aren't enough for me to justify a pass on this one. I actually enjoy this figure. If you like what you see, that's exactly what you're getting here. With the promise of Kaiba and who knows what else after, here's to hoping she gets a whole cast and crew to battle with in the future. I have to say that if you do like the Dark Magician Girl, this would be a purchase. Well, that's it for this video, but that doesn't mean you need to close out just yet. There are a few other videos that just popped up on your screen, so go ahead and click on those to watch some more of my videos, and then there's the description to check out, where I've linked to where you can get this figure or others like it, and the credits to see how this video was made, so be sure to check that out. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe. I love hearing from you. Thanks for watching, collectors, and I'll catch ya in the next video.